So Trump held a rally in which he was making comments about Kamala Harris having never worked at McDonald's, and one of the attendees at the rally just engaged in some utter misogyny. And Trump approved of it. In case you were wondering, the quality of the Republican candidate for president here, it is, as we were saying earlier, in the dumpster, total garbage.
Their stupidity. They got us into Ukraine. We should have never gone into Ukraine. If I was president, you would have never gone into Ukraine. This is not a charity event. This is an election for the biggest and toughest job in human history. This is
Wait, was that the right video?
I'm not sure. I can't remember when before.
All right. Yeah, that's okay. I'll edit that out. So Trump at a rally made a comment about Kamala Harris never having worked at McDonald's. An individual from the crowd yelled out that she, in fact, worked on a corner. That was an allusion to the idea that, you know, they professed that Kamala Harris was a prostitute and slept her way to the top. And Trump said, that's amazing.
He's so gross.
I don't.
And at a previous rally, like a day or so ago, when he was calling her dumb, and then a male in the audience yelled out, "She's an idiot." And he goes, "I like this guy." You know, he puts on these, like, I like this guy with his fake voices and shit.
Yeah, and this is coming from the guy who banged his wife on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I mean, just Jesus Christ with this shit. And again, again, this goes back to the comments Biden made where he was just talking about the disparaging comments by Kill Tony in regards to Puerto Ricans, saying those comments were garbage, but they blew that out of proportion. But when things like this happen at a Trump rally, it's just absolute crickets. No one cares.
No, he called her a simpleton. I was like,
and she's one of the most accomplished women in the country. Just, you know, an accredited lawyer, prosecutor, attorney general, senator. She's run the gamut. She's got multiple degrees. I mean, the woman intellectually is unrivaled. And this is, and they make comments about her. It's
so gross.
It's disgusting. And it's just, and it's only because she's a woman. I mean, I guess in terms of Trump calling people stupid, like there are no gender boundaries with that. He's not afraid to call anyone dumb.
Remember, he did say that he's a smart guy because of his genetics. And then he said she's dumb.
Which is also weird because, you know, his genetics are questionable. If you look at his parents and you look at his kids, you're not going to be like, oh, that's the master race there. But again, that's akin to Hitler being like, yes, the master race has blonde hair and blue eyes. Hitler's hair was brown.
Yeah. I guess that's why he offed himself in the end.
Is that?
Well, I don't think that was
I'm
why.
kidding. It's a dark joke. It's a dark time.
But again, in our comparisons of Trump and Hitler, like the one good thing Hitler did again was to kill Hitler. So in that regard, we can only hope that if Trump does
I was just playing a best of Hitler track the time he shot himself in the head.
Well, if Trump does take up the mantle of bringing upon the Fourth Reich, may he end up in the same position as Hitler did. Oh my God, man. Just so in terms of the possibility of more political violence related to the Trump campaign and a presidential election, much like in 2020 when Trump lost and proceeded to engage in a violent coup at the Capitol on January 6th of 2021, Alex Jones says that after listening to Trump's rally in Pennsylvania that we should all prepare for civil war.
You know they're not going to just give up easily after the impeachments and the Russian collusion crap and all the fake indictments and the lawfare. This is common sense. So I'm saying be ready for the Civil War conditions and the not certifying it, and Carville saying we need an armed uprising against Trump and Trump supporters. I mean, these people are going for broke. And mainline Republican supporters aren't really ready for this. Trump is starting to get it and was talking about all this just minutes ago.
Why does he
he
look
so
like
red?
Sorry, Ron Perlman.
So
But why does he look like Hellboy? I don't.
I have absolutely no idea why.
Like he looked like a beet. And I usually say that hyperbolically, but his skin is extremely red.
So if you've ever seen South Park and the episodes where the devil is a character on the show, he looks like the devil from South Park, just like this, gigantic, fat, hulking idiot in all red, minus the horns. He doesn't have horns that we're aware of. But
that we can see.
I don't understand. I have no answers. I don't know why he looked like that. It's the same questions I have about like why Trump is dressed up like Robert Downey Jr. from Tropic Thunder with all the blackface on. Like, I don't know what's going on with these guys, but
Are they letting him put his own makeup on? Or is his makeup artist just a troll? Like the cameraman? I have so many questions. I need answers.
I have numerous questions. I have far fewer answers. I don't have any answers whatsoever, to be frank. But yeah, just like, again, the idea that, depending on what happens on election day or election week or whatever you want to call it, between election day and the results being decided, that possibly devolving into violence, that is generally speaking an idea that comes from the right. And given that we've already had political violence the last time Trump lost an election, I would probably say, in all honesty, maybe you should take Alex Jones's advice and be prepared for a possible civil war, depending on the results of the election, because they're not going to take this one lying down, right? This is basically all or nothing for the Republican Party. If they win, of course, America is doomed. But if they lose, the Republican Party is doomed. They're going to have to reassess it because they've put all their chips in the Trump bag, right? They're on, like, if this is the roulette table, they've got all their money on red. And if they lose this, they lose everything. They could potentially end up losing their majority on the Supreme Court, which would, set back their Project 2025 / Heritage Foundation.
MAGA is going to lose their fucking mind because they are all in. They've lost friends. They've lost family. They've lost jobs. Their entire world has centered around this man and the fact that they were, quote unquote, on the winning side, the quote unquote winners. He has given them purpose because these people, they have been miserable for so long, but they haven't connected that they were miserable and their lives were not where they wanted them to be because they insisted on voting for the people that kept it that way, which is Republicans. And so the only thing they had was owning the libs. So they just said, I know I'm starving, but I got to own a lib today. It's
yeah. And Trump was the voice for their displeasure with their circumstances. And the problem for the Republican Party is so their entire apparatus is now wrapped up in Trump. You got Laura running the RNC, the Trump campaign, soaking up all the dollars, spending it on Trump's legal fees. So the Republican Party is now broke. And if you've noticed, there are political ads running rampant all across the internet and even on TV. But in states where they really need to win, they're not able to spend any money to run nearly as many ads as the Biden campaign.
Well, that's where the dark money comes in.
And they don't have enough of that.
Like Tim Sheehy, the Montana race, and McCormick. That race, they
super PACs are pouring millions of dollars into those campaigns. But again, so if you think about how TV ads function, the candidates' campaigns get a huge discount and the super PACs have to pay full price. And for ads around election season and football and season premieres, those ad spots are extraordinarily expensive. So dollar for dollar, they're spending far more than the Democrats and the Harris campaign. It's it's a failure. It's a failure to properly appropriate their dollars in the right way. But again, if Trump loses, they're going to have to untangle all of this from Trump. And he's probably going to put up a fight to make sure that that doesn't happen, because politics is the only successful business Trump's ever had. But again, if they lose, this will be, you know, the 2024 presidential that they lost, the 2022 midterms where they underperformed and didn't recapture the Senate, the 2020 election where they lost everything, House, Senate, presidency included, and the 2018 midterms where they lost the House and you know, got drilled in such a way that it set up Democrats to take the Senate in 2020. That's, you know, 6 years of elections that Republicans have lost betting on Trump. No political party has ever really come back from something like that. This is
their last chance.
It's their last chance.
And they're going all in. That's why they went ahead and exposed Project 2025. They wanted to get the evangelicals ginned up. Like, come on, please come out, vote for him.
And speaking
this
of
is what we got for you. This is going to be our gift to you.
Yeah. And speaking of Project 2025, so like, I know people are like, oh, Project 2025, if Trump wins, they're going to implement. They've already implemented the first step of Project 2025, and that was getting Heritage Foundation approved Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court to get a, you know, conservative majority. And they pulled that off, and you've seen what's happened since then. We lost Roe v. Wade. I mean, they've basically granted, you know, the next president immunity from criminal actions, and who knows,
the Chevron decision.
Yes, Chevron deference is gone. Like the ability for the federal government to basically regulate the country, that's been thrown out. Imagine what kind of insane shit they would enable under a second Trump administration. And that was step one. And if Trump gets in, they'll just finish the job. But we're already there. Mike Johnson
said the first 100 days, they're working fast. It's going to be full speed ahead.
Yeah, they got a plan to gut the federal government. They're going to let Trump fire every single federal employee, or at least in the executive branch, and they're going to replace them with brown shirts. And the Supreme Court is going to rubber stamp it because they want executives to have unlimited power anytime a Republican is in office. And again, because
they also don't see what's coming for them. The court also goes eventually.
Well, again, yeah, right. That's the thing. So anything that could be a potential help to Trump is also a potential hindrance. And I'm assuming he's going to eliminate his competition, and that would include the legislative branch and the judicial branch. And that's what the Nazis did when they took power. Once they had control of their own party, they eradicated all of the dissidents, and they took over the media. The courts were next, and from there, democracy in Germany fell until the end of World War II, and then some. I mean, hell, the wall didn't come down until the Reagan administration. Just expect the worst if Trump wins, but also expect the worst if Trump loses, because again, like, this will be the death of the Republican Party. Now, theoretically, I think if it's a massive blowout in favor of Kamala Harris, it might give the party the room to totally reject Trump in such a way that the party's just willing to pivot the same way they pivoted once George Bush left office in 2008, right? Like it's like they erased the 8 years of the Bush administration from their memories. It's just like they skip over that and just go back to Clinton in terms of the way they talk about the White House. So that might give them opportunity to kind of, rebrand back to the old conservative party of Mitt Romney or whatnot, which would just allow them to continue to do more of the same. But if it's close enough and there are enough people in the Republican Party who feel like, I want to continue to stick to Trumpism, but there's also that split that wants a new path forward for the Republican Party, then we get our civil war just inside of the Republican Party, where they spend the next decade fighting it out and destroying themselves, which honestly would be the best apart from the fact that they might attack the Capitol again if it's close enough. That would be the best possible outcome, having the Republican Party spend the next decade fighting amongst each other, unable to mount any sort of kind of, national campaign or platform or, war between the Republicans and the state parties, allowing Democrats to make some gains in the House, the Senate, and state legislatures and governorships all across the country to start trying to undo some of the damage that, the Trump era Republican Party has caused. I mean, I'm hoping that that's the case, but more than anything, it's just important that we make sure these idiots fucking lose. Speaking of idiots, here's Trump basically offering of the idea that he himself is disqualified to hold office.
But nothing is more dangerous than to give immense power to a weak and not very smart person, just not a smart person. We need smart. In fact, I call for it, but I would love to have it. We should have cognitive tests for anybody that runs for president and vice president. Oh, how about that guy she picked for vice president? What a loser.
Has he seen Vance? No, but yes, obviously it's extraordinarily dangerous to give nearly unlimited power to a moron. And then, well, Trump is the stupid person he's referring to. The inability to look in the mirror there is quite shocking.
Maybe his teleprompter was actually a mirror.
Can we talk for a second about the rebrand with the Trump paraphernalia, right? So he's been showing up here lately over the course of the past month.
Proud Boys?
Yes. So instead of donning the classic red and white Make America Great Again gear, he's now in the black and gold or the white and gold. And, obviously, if you're familiar with right-wing politics, that that is a dog whistle to none other than the Proud Boys, one of the right-wing militias that were responsible for planning and executing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. And I don't know what the implication is there, but this is basically the same thing as when he got on stage in 2020 and told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. It's a clear choice to get away from the red and white.
Isn't it? Isn't it the Oath Keepers colors too? I swear I thought in their logo it was gold too, because I know
think they're
black.
all like black and
some combination of black, white, gold, and it might maybe gray.
Yeah, that's black and gold.
Yeah, so it's just if you've been paying attention to Trump politics over the course of the past 8 years, apart from his blue suit and red tie, the only colors you see him wear, generally speaking, when it's got a political reference to it, is the red and white that's associated with the red and white MAGA hat. Now, of course, again, we had that instance where he was selling the gold sneakers. And I kind of noticed it then. It's usually the sneakers he's selling on his website are red or red and white or white and red, some combination. The switch to the gold was hey man, where is this going exactly? He was this is extraordinarily gaudy. But now that you've seen the flip with the hat too, this is obviously
okay.
Obviously a dog whistle to his right-wing militias out there.
It might be a dog whistle to both. I'm looking at the Oath Keepers logo here.
They got the same shit.
There's one where it's the Oath Keepers, it's gold on a white background, his tie and his shirt. And then there's also...
And the Proud Boys is yellow and white.
Black. And it's gold on the black. So it might be to both. And maybe this is his signal saying, I'm going to pardon you. And those are going to be his soldiers. That is a very real possibility of hey, hang in there, guys. You're about to get out.
I guess.
It's all possible.
Too many things. It's going to be a rough few months. I'm tired.
I mean, we're speculating, but I don't think it's reckless.
Carol, I got to admit.
I didn't say it was reckless. What?
Even though I wasn't active on Twitter in 2016, 2017, I did have a Twitter account. I was following what was going on. I was extraordinarily involved with keeping up with the Trump administration, and particularly the Russia investigation as led by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. And I got to tell you, after a decade of this, I'm utterly exhausted physically, mentally, emotional, psychologically, spiritually. If you believe in spirituality, just in every single way. I imagine if you're listening to this, much like I am, you are just sick of this shit and you want this dude to go away forever. And I got to tell you, if you vote for Kamala Harris and she wins, in all likelihood, he might be going away a lot sooner than you think because his sentencing
coming up.
Yes, his sentencing for the 34 count felony conviction in New York is at the end of November, the 26th, I believe. And a lot of people are saying, just generally speaking, the discourse around that is that no judge is going to sentence Trump to prison. And I got to tell you, if you look at the pattern of sentencing for, crimes and convictions in this similar vein in that particular district, motherfuckers go to jail for at least a year or two. So it's possible we could see Trump being locked up before Inauguration Day if he loses this election. Now, if he wins, there's absolutely no way, no matter what that judge decides to do in November, that the Supreme Court is going to let any kind of jurisdiction, federal or state, imprison Trump for any amount of time. They're going to, quote unquote, postpone his sentencing until after his term. And given what he plans to do with his term if he wins, he ain't leaving the White House alive for good or bad. So, if in case you were a single issued voter and your single issue is seeing Trump go to jail and never having to see his stupid face again, there's your incentive. We also had a pretty funny event. Trump likes to brag about how he has the largest crowds and he has all the support. This attempt by Trump to treat everything as though it's a reality show, because if you project strength and popularity, then people are more inclined to believe that you have the possibility of winning. So therefore, they're more motivated to show up and help you out on election day. But, as Trump was bragging about the crowd, he got fact checked in real time at one of his campaign rallies by the cameraman, and it's fucking hilarious.
In 9 years, we've had the biggest rallies in history of any country. And every rally's full. You don't have any seats that are empty. You don't have anything. The one we had today, you missed a beauty. We could have filled that place up 20 times. That was beautiful. And the Virginia rally, did you hear about the Virginia rally? That was, Glenn Youngkin did a great job, the governor of Virginia. And they had a crowd there that was incredible. And then we came here, and we don't want to be late, but it's very hard when you do these things. It's very hard, and you don't mind a little bit. We weren't very late. Just a few minutes. Depending on your definition of when it's going to start. But, we've been doing, I was talking to some of the people. It's sort of, in a way it's sad, and in a way it's beautiful. I was talking to them, and I said, this is coming to an end. These rallies are coming.
Even the people are leaving in the middle of him speaking.
I think I'm going to tell my boss that. Well, what is your definition of when I was supposed to start? Because I had one definition.
Hey, man. Hey, so
human resources had a different definition, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we'll see how that goes.
The fact that the cameraman is doing a better job of fact checking Trump in real time than the media does, even with pre-recorded, video. Kudos to that cameraman. Get that dude a raise. I guess he must be he's a Democratic plant. He's one of the deep state.
It was an op.
Yeah, it was an op. Yeah, it's just it's so funny that even the cameraman was like, "Hey, wait a second, this is some total bullshit." Carol, how many of his rallies do you watch? Do you watch any of them at all, apart from the clips? No, yeah, no. I understand. So I don't typically watch all of them. I try to watch at least every other one for a good 30, 40 minutes just to see what's going on. And again, for the most part, it never really changes rally to rally. He's talking shit about Democrats. He's talking about how dumb Kamala Harris is. And then he goes on either he does the shark battery thing or he does the Hannibal Lecter thing and or both.
Or the hydrogen cars are going to blow up and you'll be unrecognizable. But it's really funny because the only people he ever points out for his death scenario are women in the audience.
I ain't considered that, but you make a good point. That is typically his best in his bag, his repertoire.
I mean, when Danica Patrick, when she was bragging like, "Oh, I'm 42 years old and I never voted, but today I voted for Trump," and she go to say rally that night, and he's like, points her out, and puts her in his hydrogen bomb. Imagine it. Then you go and then you've been murdered.
Yeah, exploding Danica Patrick.
Figuratively.
Yeah,
he did that to Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday.
Well, no, nothing. No, nothing is better than exploding Danica Patrick at your Trump rally,
or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I mean, that's probably more an allusion to the pipe bomber on January 6th. But no, so Kara, do you know who Danica Patrick is? The NASCAR driver. She's the first woman NASCAR driver. So she recently came out, endorsed.
I could change my answer.
I thought it was Formula One.
No,
that was NASCAR.
Yeah. So she recently came out and endorsed Trump, saying she was, voting for Trump, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's something women or other. And this is funny because if you understand the history of Danica even being in NASCAR, like they've basically been calling her a DEI hire for a decade.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. That's the gag.
And it's like, oh, so you're endorsing the political party that fucking hates your guts and wish you never existed and didn't have a job in NASCAR. That's quite ironic there. But yeah, look, again, as we said, if Trump supporters aren't garbage, they're stupid. So apart from the cameraman completely destroying Trump's claims of him having super PAC rallies, there was also Nick Fuentes, noted neo-Nazi, who's finally come to the light and admits that the Trump campaign is in fact a cult.
Garbage. And at the Trump rallies, they're yelling trash for Trump, trash for Trump. And I saw other people. I saw white guys. I saw Hispanic guys inside trash cans, jumping out of them with Trump signs. White guys with garbage bags that say trash for Trump 2024. And that was kind of like, to me, that was the moment when I realized Trumpism was a cult. That was the moment when I realized liberals are right. That was the moment when I realized it has gone too far. It is Frankenstein's monster. We have created a golem. It is a problem. For years, liberals said, it's a cult. You're in a cult. And I said, you're going to jail. You're going to jail. It is a cult and we are in it and you are going to jail. That's how I felt about it for the past 8 years.
So I hate to...
But with the jail part, who's going to jail? We are Democrats?
Yeah, he was saying liberals are going to jail and now he's convinced that we were right and they're a cult and they're probably going to prison. But yeah, I hate to say it. I think for the first time in my life, I agree with a neo-Nazi.
I'll cut it soon. Dinner.
But yes, let's just be clear that he has come to his senses, but surely still hates Jews and blacks.
Oh yeah, look, I'm not approving of anything Nick Fuentes stands for. This is like, broken clock's right twice a day type of thing. Like it'll probably never happen again. In fact, that he's right once at all is actually kind of disheartening. But again, if you're a right-wing supporter, Nick Fuentes is even down with President Trump. He's been one of his most ardent supporters.
I think he was more a supporter of the racism, but the garbage bags were just too much, though.
Yeah, the diapers didn't do it for him, but them dressing up as white trash on Halloween, that was a bridge too far for noted neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. It's incredible. So apart from, just the utter stupidity of the right and conservatives and the Trumpers specifically, we did have on a more positive note, we had an interesting development over the course of the week when noted NBA superstar and current LA Laker LeBron James made a political endorsement.
Be a good day. Everything was kind of silent, and I wanted to make sure that it's seen, heard with force. Having a daughter, having a wife, having a mother, and things of that nature, what she believes in when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to the future, with my kids and where I see our country should be. I feel like that endorsement is only right. And it is. Come on, you guys know me. Damn sure won't go the other way.
What is your experience in 2020 with One Vote? teach you about politics, show you about politics, show you about the impact you can have on a very specific way?
Well, I mean, it all started with, the shut up and dribble, thing, obviously. And to be able to be in a position where you can have some influence, and you have a lot of people who, who want to be in a position to have influence, to be able to speak outside of their realm, for sports or if it's, the music or movies or whatever it is, whatever the industry is, to be able to have a platform where, I was able to gather, a lot of men and women to be able to speak out from that moment. And then more in the bold campaign, obviously, an initiative.
Yeah, so last week, LeBron on his Instagram and Twitter and other social media platforms posted a pro Kamala Harris ad where he basically endorsed Kamala Harris, said he was coming out to vote for Kamala Harris, and that his supporters should as well. And unlike the incident where Nick Bosa photobombed a teammate with the Trump hat, and he was asked about it in the post-game press conference and refused to stand on his comments when LeBron was asked about it at that press availability event after the game, he explained his political stance. And
I think also the other guy probably just couldn't explain his political stance. Not that
he looks like a meathead incel.
Yeah, so Nick Bosa, I think his political stance is you probably should ask him where he was on January 6th. LeBron, on the other hand, again, and I've said
you should also probably cover your drink around him. Continue.
So I said this previously, again, there's been, for years now, at least since the advent of, Trump brand of politics, the right wing and pro-conservative media, anytime an athlete or, a public figure comes out in favor of support of, some positive social stance or political stance that they don't agree with, the obvious retort there, shut up and dribble. But anytime some kind of right-wing athlete does it, then that's when they get celebrated. I'm a fan of, regardless of what political stances you take, I want every popular athlete to take a political stance, including the owners of these, sports franchises, because I want to know where you stand. Now, they're typically, the owners and a lot of right-wing or right-leaning athletes and such aren't going to do that because they understand that it could potentially affect their dollars. They're not willing to stand on the things they believe in.
I don't want to be walking around with a fucking Bosa jersey, a fucking Aaron Rodgers jersey, a Brett Favre jersey. If I'm a Negro and I find out this is what you think about me, fuck you, man.
And that's what
merch.
And that right there is why they typically aren't going to come out and do those things. But I wish they did. I would like to know. I would like to know how these people feel. I would like to know the levels.
I think it should be Trump and less proven Kamala. Right at this point, if you're not going to say anything, then I'm just going to have to kind of assume.
But you know what? Regardless of anybody's stance, I can respect somebody that actually has real conviction in what they believe in and can explain why. I may not agree with it. I might think it's gross, but at least I know that you've put some actual thought into it and where the way you feel is coming from your actual feeling on that issue, not just behind on some bandwagon or doing it for clout or just chasing Trumpism because Trumpism is quote unquote the thing right now, like the way Mark Cuban just demolished Dana White on this interview. And he was like, and this is why you're wrong. And Dana White, it was crickets. He couldn't say a motherfucking thing. And that's usually how it goes with Trump people. But, of course, I don't have any respect at all for David Duke. And he is a horrible human being. However, he will, to the grave, he's going to take his beliefs with him. He stands firm in what he believes in. But these other people, they can't articulate the way that like LeBron James can, and some of these other players, the way Colin Kaepernick did, and they resent that. They want to have that and they're trying to ride on the coattails of this MAGA thing, but they just end up owning themselves and looking like fucking fools.
Well, I don't think all of them can articulate their positions. I think I think their positions, generally speaking, are so abhorrent that they don't want to articulate them publicly because
and that lets you know that they know they are.
Yeah.
And they know that, because if you really felt like it was really that popular, you would, but you just can't. Bosa just couldn't have got up there and just said, I just really hate N-words, because that wouldn't have gone over so well, especially in the locker room.
Well, no one can say that. But yeah,
but that lets you know they're on the wrong side of history and social issues, justice, etc. But
and it's particularly so outside of baseball and possibly soccer, it's actually extraordinarily difficult to be super pro publicly right wing for an obvious reason. Those sports are majority black in terms of the players, and you got to go in your locker room with your teammates who you play with and for years at a time. And you got a bunch of black teammates. You can't be out here with a super racist candidate, wearing it on your sleeve or your hat in Nick Bosa's case, without some possible backlash inside the locker room with the team organization, even though the owners at the top are likely pro-Trump in most cases. It's just, but
the thing is, you could have rocked a MAGA hat in 2016 and nobody would really too much give you side eye, and maybe even up until 2020. But between 2020 and 2024, there are no quiet parts. So if you rock that hat now, it has a whole different vibe to it with the shit that we've been seeing for the past 4 years, the things they've been saying, the people that have been, it's the energy is completely different. So while back then it was just like, okay, whatever, do you. Now it's like, nah, bro. It's just wearing it tells me what you think, because
it's a scarlet letter. Yeah, you endorse all the bad things that come along.
All that shit.
That
yeah. Maybe you had a little bit of degrees of separation back then, like when people said, well, I just thought and I didn't take. You can't say that now with a straight fucking face. You can try, but you can't. So it's like, I see you. Right. I see you, bro.
So
hope you don't need your DL, when somebody's coming for you. Like they're gonna do him like Jamie Foxx on Any Given Sunday after he made them comments and his ass got ate the fuck up.
That was crazy. Yeah, just let him get smashed back there in the backfield.
Smashed all the way up.
All right, so Saturday there was a poll released. One of the most prominent, well-known, and well-respected pollsters in Iowa, Seltzer, released a poll showing that Kamala Harris had a significant lead over Trump in Iowa. I think it was around 5 points.
I thought it was 3.
Yeah,
it might have been 3 points. So, that rocked the political world because, generally speaking, over the course of the past, what are we dealing with here? 3 presidential elections and 4 midterm elections. She's been extraordinarily accurate in predicting Iowa within, a 2 or 3 point margin, if not sometimes nailing it exactly. And this rocked the political world, not because, people are believing that Kamala Harris is actually going to outright win Iowa, but if Trump is doing so poorly in Iowa that this pollster might be correctly predicting within a handful of points that Kamala Harris has put Iowa in play, what it says about the possibility of Kamala Harris running away with the election in other swing states, or, just demographically in terms of the similarities between Iowa and states like, say, Minnesota or Ohio. If it's that close, then Trump is cooked. And again, so I think if she had come out and said Trump were winning Iowa by 6 points, no one would bat an eye. And in fact, the right would be using it as evidence that Trump is about to win the 2020 election in overwhelming fashion, or at least in fashion similar to 2016. But this suggests that just in terms of demographics, Kamala Harris is likely to overperform with women voters, particularly white educated voters, both male and female, and just like older voters in terms of, the 55 and up crowd. And that has implications for states like North Carolina, Georgia, maybe not so much Arizona, but a number of states that Trump needs to win. Like if this pollster is correct about what the data shows about Kamala Harris's chances, it's not going to look pretty for Trump on election day. Now, I assume that Tuesday we're probably not going to know the results of the election either way, even if Trump appears to possibly be in a position to win the election. But if Kamala Harris does happen to win something like North Carolina, we'll know that pretty early. You'll be able to look at results in Florida and have a pretty clear indication of even, the fact that she might lose the state but still overperform. That has implications for other states, particularly the blue wall or any population.
And also the down ballot candidates. It could, while she may just barely miss it, the trajectory, but we could pick up some much needed seats, flip some seats.
Yeah, it'll definitely have implication for like whether or not Democrats regain or retain control of the House. But it also has implications for Georgia and Arizona, who have Hispanic populations that vote in pretty large numbers. But typically Florida, like the Cuban population is slightly different in terms of Hispanic voters. I wouldn't even lump them.
But you know what? The Haitian and the Puerto Rican population might just cancel them the fuck out this year. So
absolutely. So if we have signs in Florida that show Harris performing strongly with certain demographic groups, has pretty clear implications about how well she'll perform in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, all the states that Trump absolutely needs in order to stay out of prison. And then just again, like the Iowa poll was a bombshell, not just because she has such a history of being fairly accurate on predictions, but like it is causing a bunch of doom and panic in right-wing circles because they know what it implies, and they know that if that's the case, then it's all over before we.
And they don't have time to do no voter suppression there.
No, absolutely not. And so another thing is typically I would say, if you're looking at the polls, trying to figure out whether or not they're predictive in terms of the 2024 election, they're going to be less predictive than ever. For one, because right-wing pollsters who are just paid for by PACs are putting out these. So it's difficult to cook a poll in terms of like the flat results from what you get from the participants, but all of these polls get weighted by what they expect the electorate to look like, and they've been undersampling women. They've been undersampling, black women voters, black male voters. They've been undersampling educated voters to get to a number that makes it look as though Trump's got like, a 1-point lead in states that Kamala Harris will probably win by maybe a half a point or a point. In states where, Trump might win by a point, these polls have been showing Trump up by 3 and 4 in order to make the people who put out the polling averages just say, throw it into the average. And it makes it look as though Trump is performing stronger than he actually is. And this specific pollster is, well, in fact, just, I don't know. I just disregard polling averages is what I'm saying, basically.
Just throw those vote. Out. Tell people to vote. Go vote.
Well, it's
Make
not
everyone vote.
So it's not just tell people to vote. It's that you shouldn't use these polling averages as some kind of indicator of what you think is going to happen on election day because those polls are cooked. And I know this because if you look at swing state Senate races, generally speaking, all of the Democratic Senate races in these states, the Democrat is running away with it, or at least in close states, they're up by, +3, +4, +5 over what the polling averages are saying in terms of the presidential election. And I, would just take it with a grain of salt. These things that are suggesting Trump is going to win outright. It's obviously going to be a close election. It's likely going to be something like 2016, where it comes down to 4 or 5 states, 200,000 votes split between them. That'll be the difference in who comes out victorious. But I would say all the factors at this point are pointing in favor of Kamala Harris. And if I were to pick a position that I would want to be in, I would want to be the Harris campaign right now. And I think just most importantly, as we head into election day, again, if you haven't vote already. You do what you can to ensure that your friends and family members turn out to vote, volunteer to drive people to the polls if you can do so, if you have the availability.
The NAACP is giving free rides on Lyft, $20 up to 2 rides for a total of $40 to the polls. Yeah. So if you go to NAACP vote 24 dot, hold on. And go there. But yeah, so they're giving people a hand with that, which is amazing. And I posted that on my Facebook because I have a family in North Carolina, friends and family in Georgia, in Michigan, in Flint, in Pennsylvania, New York, but just trying to get everybody
So
I gotta take food out of the oven.
Oh my God.
I gotta go to sleep.
My kids haven't eaten.
Fuck them kids. No, so just, everyone who's been listening to this podcast over the course of the past couple of years, like, we appreciate all of your support, that you tune in every single week, that you press play on that play button, that you share this with your friends and on social media, to your followers and whatnot. And like, it's been quite the journey for us, I would imagine, as just as much of a journey as it's been for you. We've got the possibility of being part of something historic. I look back at 2008. I live in Tennessee. It's a red state. At the time, what little my vote mattered, it didn't really feel like I was largely responsible for the advent of the Obama administration as historic as it was. Again, looking at, where I was then and the opportunity that I have to play a role in this election, I feel like, this is my opportunity to personally put my stamp on making sure we arrive at a historic moment of having the first Black woman to become president of the United States. And you have that opportunity as well, even if you're a blue dot in a red state, or your state votes overwhelmingly Democratic, not just in a swing state, like any state. You have the opportunity to say that you made the decision that we're going to end the insanity brought upon America by Republicans and Trump specific over the course of the past decade. You're going to put an end to that and bring forth something we've never had in this country before. And this is your opportunity to feel like you have the chance to contribute to American history. And I suggest you take it. That concludes this episode of Pardon the Insurrection.